My name is Jazrel Cavon, and by now you know my story. By now you know my struggles. By now you know that I stand for what I believe in, that I am a rebel for my cause. My cause is the open mind, open hearts, and open souls, the three realms in which God looks at. When he looks for good fruit, he looks at the mind, the soul, and the heart. I didn't grow up in some fancy neighborhood. I'm not one to be humble before authority. I'm one who challenged authority to think outside the box, to see the real picture, the reality of life itself, depending on what you are doing. I will, with all the faith and authority in me, rebuke you and begin to cast you away. Because I believe that my generation has been talked about long enough. I believe that my generation has been misunderstood from the beginning. They wanted us to be docile, quiet, seen but not heard. That was the mantra in the era that I grew up in the 80s. Mind your own business. Keep your head down. Don't talk about what goes on between you and I behind closed doors. My abuse started when I was 4 years old. I remember when I held a gun in my hand, ready to pull the trigger. My mother remembers that day too, because she was the one that taught me down. See, we were living with a family, and they had told me where the gun was, but only after they abused me by hanging me out of a window, burning my arm against the lawnmower, duct taping me to a roof. These kids used to get their bodies abused to the point where their skin will pop open. And because their mom was a nurse, she covered it up. You didn't clean your plate right. He made you dig into the trash and eat the rest of your food. That's when I first met fear. And I responded with a wrath of clear consciousness. They were arguing about cake, as I remember, my mother and the man. And I proceeded to say to myself, this is enough. So I grabbed the gun and I pointed it straight at him. He kept yelling that he ain't gonna pull the trigger, but the gun was loaded and my finger was on the trigger. That was before people knew I could even talk. The only people that knew I could talk was my mother and my sister. I maintained within me the silence. And the silence gave way when it was that last argument I'm protective over my family, whether they protective over me or not. I stand in the gap for my family. And you don't have to be blood for me to stand in the gap. I was 16 when I came into authority. When I believed that my words had consequences to them. That my words had power and meaning in them. When I stood and did not move an inch until the subject, the item, the roadblock was moved out of my way. When they told me I could not do something, I dug deep and inspired myself to move harder and farther. Did anyone believe that I could reach? I've reached heights unknown by the power and the will of the Father. My mother has a white patch in the front of her head that the old said was the touch of God. So when my mother spoke, I listened because she was influential in the neighborhood of which we were thrusted into. She did her best to protect us from the outside world, to keep us from being corrupt by their thoughts, to keep us out of the homes of those who would steer us wrong, out of the homes of those who she knew would not look after her precious children. Don't get me wrong, my mother used to abuse us terribly. Used to call our house the CIA. I don't think my mother didn't do to us was waterboard us. But I didn't look for pity. I didn't cry out so that someone could come running and save me. I wished every day I didn't wake up. I know what the teenagers and the young folks are going through. With thoughts of suicide and suicide attempts. You think your children are not being influenced already by the enemy. We say our children are protected by the Lord, but we are the protectors. I do believe that a child should be raised by a village, see different perspectives, and have different understandings that need to be cultured and captivated and inspiring. They need to hear the voices of the elders speak the truth about the world around them, the dangers, the things that we did wrong, the path that we took, the reason that they are here in this world. They may not like our answers. They may not like what we did in our past. But it's easier for them to learn from your mistake than to let them learn from their own mistake. For their own mistake may be the last mistake they make. It may bring death to their door. It may bring molestation and rape to their door. It may bring domestic violence to their door. My mother raising us without a man in the home because she refused to date. She didn't want us to see her dating. Her focus was us. My mother beat strength into me. My mother beat faith into me. My mother beat love into me. By all norms, the situations that I was going through growing up in the hood, growing up in the inner city with all the drugs and all the shootings and all the murders and all the drugs laid out on the ground, I was supposed to be one of them who ended up on the block. Towards the end of my teenage life, my mother had turned away from me by using the one thing that will break my heart. Telling me that she didn't want me there anymore. She had started a campaign from when I stopped the abuse at 16 to get me out of her house. I watched her call the police when I turned 18, trying to get the police to force me out of the house. But what she didn't understand, while the devil was working through her, God was channeling things through me. God was letting me know, prepare yourself a path because it's about to get rough. And sometimes we have to listen to that intuition. Instead of going out spending that money, we need to be holding on to it because a storm is coming. She wanted me to be homeless, pushing a cart full of cans, as she said. She tried her hardest to make it happen. Those who took me in end up being evicted by her and her allegations that was not even true. But God swooped in and made sure all of us had a roof over our heads. I make these messages so that everybody can understand that everything is not supposed to be rosy, not supposed to be easy. Having a real spirit of discernment is turmoil because you twist and you turn and wonder, could you do something different? You keep looking at your life over and over and over again, trying to figure out when should you have took the responsibility and made a change. These young people have no idea of what they're doing or the path that they're going down. And some people say they have hard heads and there's no reason to waste their time on them. But I'm going to tell you in secret, I had a hard head. I was focused. I was stubborn. I disliked when people criticized me. But when God was done remolding me, I began to look at those past criticism. And realized that there was a truth. I analyzed from my point of view, their point of view, and a view that doesn't even exist. As I got older, I began to build my counsel. Those who would be the leaders and the foundation of my strength. One believed in taking risks. One believed in being happy no matter what. Joyful. Even though things were falling down around him, he still held on to his true nature. And those who walked away, when they began to see the darker side of me, when they known how far my wrath would go, I used to lose friends by the time. Because as my father was shaping me, I started rejecting the idea and the notion that I could not make a change. I used to have a saying that you can offer somebody the world and they will take nothing. And 99% of everybody did that one thing. They chose to take nothing. It was very few in my life who took the world that I was offering. It was a change from their world. It was a change from speaking to somebody who spoke like them, but I didn't speak like them. I didn't think like them. I had a three-dimensional view of life. It's like a bridge. I can see the road. I can see the sides. I can see the bottom of the bridge and understood its purpose. There's a reason why I said that there are three realms in which we live. We live in the realm of our mind. We live in the realm of our hearts. We live in the realm of our soul. The three places God checks. He discards the flesh and look at the divinity of the person to see if they match up to their deeds. And I'm proud to say that 16, 17 years later, I still have those two friends in my life. When I found out I had lupus, I cried. Because I knew I was in for pain. I did my research. A very few men end up having lupus. But I knew once again that the devil was testing me to see if I turned away from my father. I call him my father because my father was locked up for 25 years. It was my father above who taught me, no, don't wear this, wear that. Don't waste your money on buying t-shirts and baggy jeans. Find yourself a nice pair of slacks. Find yourself a nice shirt. Walk around like money has flowed out your pocket. And people didn't understand how I dressed so well. I was going to the thrift stores, looking through the slacks and see which ones would fit. Getting shirts that was given away because they only wore them once I was getting the stuff, the cream of the crop. The days of me wearing clothes that looked like a cartoon character was over. There was a change in me at 16. I had me a good job. I was making good money. I had begun to learn that the things that I had been taught between God and my mother had begun to push me upwards to excellence. I went from a party host to a cook to a chef at one of the finest restaurants. I learned my dance in the kitchen. My way, my movements. Everything was pre-planned. Everything was set up the way I wanted it to be set up. It may not look like everybody else's setup, but my setup worked for me. I'm a black man who cooked Chinese food 3 different times in his life in a pair of chains. And still continue to move forward. Even though I had lupus, I kept moving forward. I kept pushing the goal. I kept saying I could do more. Give me more, Lord. He helped me lead by the power of discernment. I knew that when my employee walked through the door and they didn't have a smile on their face, that we must go talk. Because we're not going to work unless you are happy. Even if I'm going to send you back home to pull yourself back together, we are a family. I didn't manage like other managers. No one called sick on me. They called me, said the basketball game is going on at the high school. Can I go? And I look around and see if I had enough people, and I say, yeah, you can go. I would cover their responsibilities myself so that they can have a little fun. They were young kids. They wanted to go to basketball games and football games. But I made it clear that every time you call me, some things you won't be able to go to because you have obligation. Me and my crew was thick as thieves because we looked out for each other. I can remember a time that they was ready to fire me at one job because I was too popular over the GM. And she couldn't stand it. So she tried to fire me over something stupid. And I'm sitting there with the district manager. Now I looked at her and I said, go ask my crew how I run a ship. She asked every last one of them. And then she looked at me and said, well, this is a verbal warning. I had one district manager tell me and I couldn't run his restaurant because I'm so busy trying to make it mine. I said, no, sir. I'm trying to make it work better than it was before. See, I know that your manager before will let things go dirty and unclean. But when I'm at the helm, it shall be clean. When I'm at the helm, I shall make sure things get done. If it don't get done timely, then it will. But it is going to get done. I've lost many things in my life. Nothing more Then my goddaughter had scathed me. My goddaughter ripped my heart out of my chest when she passed away at 9 months. My baby was blind. She was missing some organs. She had a shunt and had to be put on a feeding tube. I had got the offer of a lifetime to go to Hawaii. I had to come back to fix some things. And I found out that nobody would step up to take care of this little girl. And for me, being a godfather is the most important thing there is, because I am next in line of something happening. Because I believe that teaching children is my duty. Once I'm their godfather, that I got to take care of them as if they were my own. That I weighed into the decisions of the mother and the father, because it was my responsibility to know how you want to raise your child. And also to object to certain things that I believe violated the moral and ethic code of life. In short, my deeds outweigh my words, because I believe the great do not speak, they act. I tell people, I'd rather you hate me than love me, because when you love me, I gotta show you every possible way to be loved, even hardcore love, where it's tough love. I can treat you like I treat everyone else. I believe in loving people equally. I am different than any man. That's all I ever heard, was that you're different. I still hear that word to this day. It used to bother me because I wanted to be normal. But God had made me more than a man. He allowed me to see the perspective of a woman. During 7 years of celibacy, see, I do things that no man does. I follow the law. I don't tell people when I'm fasting. I anoint my head and do what the Bible says, remove the oil, so nobody knows that you have anointed yourself. Don't go around bragging about all the things you have done. Tell the stories of those who have trusted you to be a voice for them. Don't use no names, but tell their stories so that others may know the courage that it takes to continue living on an earth that will leave you behind, then rather encourage you to move ahead. When I started studying other subjects, philosophy and theology and metaphysics and etymology and philosophy, people thought I was out of my mind because I was not in college, but my workload was like I was in college. Why are you studying all these things? Because all these things are important. They encapsulate a life. It gives you 3D vision, math, science, English, history, all belong together in one conceivable pack in the mind if you look at it. We are built under the elements of the earth. We need iron. We need calcium. vitamin A, vitamin B, vitamin D, manganese, and all different types of elements that we need from the earth, that because we choose not to eat healthy, we must take the vitamins to replenish what we have taken away from ourselves by going to McDonald's, by going to Wendy's, by going out to eat and eating foods that are high in salt and fat content and cholesterol. But I want to get ready to end this off because I wanted to get off my chest who I am, because I always feel like I have to defend who I am and defend myself against those who have no idea who I am. When you meet me, I change your life. Nobody meets me for no reason. I don't take normal stuff. I call it spiritual defense. I teach you how I survived my life. How I survived 14 years of abuse. How I survived 8 years of having lupus. How I survived when I was homeless and a roof came over my head the very same day I had nowhere to go. How the words and the wisdom of God has influenced my life. I wanted to open the air so that you may hear that my voice does not tremble before the enemy, but it encourages me to be stronger. They told me so many times that I was about to die. Even up to this year, 2011 was a mark on my heart when they told me if I didn't come in 15 minutes, if I would have came in 15 minutes later, I would have been dead. But I still kept working. I began to lose the power to walk on my own without some assistance. I had to get a cane, and I wept, and nobody understood why I was weeping. I was weeping because I knew that the devil wanted to take more than the strength of my legs. He wanted to crush my heart, crush my soul, crush my mind. Then I slowly eased into it. And then my career came to an end. And I looked, and I said, the Lord must want me to stop. But I was getting so frail, and I was so sick so often. I had people thinking I didn't have lupus, that it was all in my head. They wanted me to show documentation to them. But I'm not a man that will give you what you seek. I give you what you need. In other words, it was my own personal business. You don't need to be sorting through none of my stuff, trying to find what I'm taking and how I'm taking it and what's going on with me. I'm going to tell you what's going on with me. Either you believe it or you don't. I believe in truth. NSAT, no secrets, just truth. I got here in Nebraska and they told me had I not made the trip out here, I would have had a stroke. My breathing was so bad at night, I stopped breathing 177 times in an hour. But by the grace of the Father, I woke up every morning not knowing what I would do with the time that would be given to me. So before you ask 400 shows dedicated to those who are voiceless, motherless, fatherless, whether they have no brother to be their keeper, no sister to be their keeper. They have no one to inspire them to do something great. I often think about my legacy and what I will leave behind. And as I was told by my cousin, my wealth is not money. My wealth is my spirit that I give and put on the line every single day to help somebody get through, that I navigate from place to place, helping people get on their feet, reminding people what they're fighting for, reminding myself who I am. Yes, I was a great chef, but now we're moving into a realm completely different. Moving into a realm of telling the truth to those who will listen, those who will open their ears and understand that the great power is in us. That our generation is a generation that can put an end to so many things. Our generation is a generation of struggle and strife, and yet we stand still today. Because he who has not created you cannot destroy you. We must remember that the prize is not before our eyes, but within us. When we look in the mirror and look at the things that we have gone through and still be standing, we are the prize. We are the diamonds in the rough. We are perfect. There is no man upon this earth that should be able to make you believe that you are not perfect. God only created one of you. God gave you breath. God gave you the ability to walk and talk. Who can compare to you? Stop comparing yourself to these idols. Stop comparing yourself to these other women. Stop comparing yourself to these other men. But focus on yourself, your morals, your ethics, what you will live and die for. And don't just get an answer that I live and die for my family and my children. But you got to be really willing to live and die for the will of God. When you say that you are saved, that meant that you believe in the conclusion when the book is open that your name will be in that book, but you got deeds to do. And I tell people, you receive your blessings when you arrive on time. You're on God's time, not your time. And as I conclude, I say this. You are special to him. That is why the devil wants you even more. Because you are special to him. Because he gave you the spark of life. Because he made you divine on the inside. Because he gave you the power to love and speak the truth. Don't give the devil more power to build obstacles in your way. Stay away from the temptations and believe that the Lord is all you need. I love you, Father, with all my heart.